And Mama View also Bwaje is live in Parliament, and we'll be speaking to a number of personalities. And right away, we just have to go to her. And Mama View, if you're ready, please take it over, because we know you have important people around you for who you would want to discuss a number of issues concerning the 6th Parliament we have under the 4th Republic. We know we're doing a transition to the next, of course.
Certainly, Roland. I do have very important persons with me here, and we're privileged that Parliament would host us in their building today. But as we all know, the third meeting of the 4th session of the 6th Republic of Ghana will end tonight. It brings an end to the 6th Parliament and ushering the 7th Parliament, which will happen on Saturday, January 7, 2017, for a 4-year term. But there have been a lot of significant things that have happened in this Parliament that ends later tonight, really. In the next 17 hours or so, we'll wake up to a fresh new Parliament with some new parliamentarians as well. And a new government, really. My guest, let me just quickly introduce to you my guest. The Honorable Joe Osei-Owusu is MP for Bekwai and is a ranking member on the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Committee. That position he's occupying for the last time today, really. Good morning to you. Thanks for being here. And may I also add that in the next Parliament, you will be the first Deputy Speaker. That's a huge position. Did you see it coming?
No. In my wildest imagination, I never conceived myself as working here in the chamber. So this was totally out of the blue.
But you deserve it, so congratulations to you.
Thank you very much.
Also joining us for this conversation is Dr. Rashid Draman. He's Executive Director, African Center for Parliamentary Affairs. Trust me, he knows all about our Parliament. Good morning, sir. It's a pleasure that you could be here this morning.
Thank you.
And the Honorable Theophilus Tetteh is MP for Ablekuma Central constituency. And for the last time, he will be chairing, if there's a committee meeting, the Transport Committee of Parliament. Because you're exiting. Good morning to you.
We are having our last meeting today.
Oh, you have a last sitting today?
Oh.
Chairman, I don't have a notice.
Then you have it now.
Okay.
So we will talk about your exit plan, which is very important, because we hear that some MPs, once they exit, there's nothing for them to do. So we'll explore that as well. But let me just ask what's been significant. Maybe Dr. Rashid Draman, there was a State of the Nation address, which was also part of this Parliament, really. What was different about yesterday's address?
Thank you very much. Over the years, I've always been in the chamber to listen to our president. Unfortunately, yesterday I wasn't. I was in Parliament, but I wasn't. We had some other meetings on some project that we've been working on. So I didn't get a chance to listen to the president. I didn't get a chance to read the State of the Nation address. But the commentaries that I've heard, I think have been that, you know, the speech was very presidential as compared to the previous years. Maybe it was because this is the last one. Usually when presidents are on their way out, I think they keep away the politics and focus on key issues. I also heard that it was very short and straight to the point. So for me, the significance of it is that hopefully the way Ghanaians are reacting to this last address, hopefully maybe our incoming president and his team would take a cue from it, that perhaps this is the kind of address that Ghanaians would expect from our president. Ones that will focus on the issues, devoid of all the propaganda and all the politics and all the little things that really do not add value to the address, but just maybe adding to propaganda.
Honorable Tetteh, you were in the chamber yesterday.
Yes.
Did you think it was going to be that brief?
No, not really. Since entering, first of all, let me say good morning to your audience, and then to say Happy New Year to all of you, including your support staff, for the good work you've done over the years. And I'm very happy to be working with you all these years. communicating to the public.
You're making it sound like today's your last day in Parliament, but you're not leaving us.
Oh, not at all, not at all, not at all. We will continue to assist in the democratic dispensation of this country. So I'll still be with you. Yeah, this is the second time that, is it the second time? Yeah, that I've witnessed such an address. And then, as Doug rightly said, it was very brief, straight to the point, very insightful in terms of bringing the entire nation together. And some of the things that he said as a president, for me, that is the way forward. We politicians, we need to learn a lot from it. We are building a nation. And in nation building, it is not a single individual that builds a nation. It takes the totality of the entire citizenry to build a good nation. And precisely, that was one significant thing I took out of the speech that he delivered yesterday. And I believe that, as Doug rightly said, he set a very good precedent for other coming governments to emulate. I think this is what we need from our leaders. And if we are able to build on that, it will go a long way to improve our interaction as politicians with the citizenry. And I think he did excellently well yesterday.
Mr. Joseph, so why hasn't it always been this brief?
Well, I'm glad that the brevity appears to be the major significant thing noticed. That probably suggests that Ghanaians don't like the verbose and the propaganda that is often associated with
and the shout-outs.
You know, I think that it was intended, and it actually ought to be brief, because the address would only be one part of what the State of the Nation address would ordinarily be, an account for what has happened in the past 1 year. If it was an address of a continuing president, he would also go forward to make projections into the future. This time, it was not practicable because he was not a continuing president. So the brevity in one breath is explained in that sense. However, I agree with Doc that probably, for once, Ghanaians were spared the propaganda. And that should warn all of us that Ghanaians know facts and they see propaganda when they see one. If we think that we are persuading anybody or convincing anybody by flowery language and exaggerations, today we should be warned that Ghanaians are much wiser, and we should be talking to facts, raising issues, and giving achievable hope.
Is that an assurance that we will not see Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo give long speeches?
In what capacity would I give that assurance? I'm only suggesting
maybe in your capacity, from tomorrow, just a couple of hours away, as first deputy speaker.
I'll still be in the legislature. The president will be coming from the executive, and I may not be privy to how the executive will present the thing. But I'm only suggesting that Ghanaians may appreciate straight to the point discussions of the state.
Let's also quickly talk about the new leadership of Parliament, because some names came up yesterday. And I think it's the full list. The majority today, tomorrow they will be minority. And we have a new minority leader then in the person of Haruna Iddrisu. Dr. Rashid Draman, all the names that you've heard, all the positions, what does that say about what the next parliament would be?
What it says about what the next parliament is going to be is that we are going to see some continuity and some change. But before I come to that, let me say that, for our members of parliament and for our politicians, they need to be reminded, just like what you rightly said in your introductory remark, that the majority today will become minority tomorrow. A famous senator in the US Congress who spent, I think, about 20 years in the Congress, a senator from Hawaii, when he was retiring, he gave a speech, and that speech was called Minorities Change. And he says, I mean, he said in that speech that if you are in the majority, just be aware that events could send you to the other side of the house. And so whatever policies and programs that you are pursuing, don't push programs down the throat of the minority because you have the numbers. You might very soon having to leave, I mean, with those policies and those laws and so on. So I think for me, that is a very big message to the incoming parliament. In terms of what I make of the list that we have right now, I think, first of all, like I said, I mean, it signifies some continuity and change. Let me start with the side of the incoming majority.
Sure.
We have Honorable Osechi Mensah-Bonsu. I think he's a household name in Parliament. He's played that role before. He's been minority leader for many years. He's been in the leadership of Parliament for many, many years, and he's one of the fine MPs that we have in this country. His deputy was a surprise for me, in the sense that maybe this is her second time in Parliament and so on. Maybe people would have said that perhaps they would have loved to see some experienced hands and so on. But I think MPP has to be commended for the inclusive nature of that appointment, making sure that, I mean, it's not only gender, but I think the voice of young people and so on reflected in the leadership of our legislative
Is that how you
institution.
describe the, the position of Adwoa Safo in terms of what went into the thinking?
Well, I mean, I'm
choosing
just
her?
guessing.
Okay.
And I'm praising the party for making sure that at least there's some representation. It's not just an all-men affair.
Okay.
I mean, that's the point I'm trying to make. If you compare that to the other side, the incoming minority, I think it's an all-men affair. The two gentlemen both have never been in, I mean, real leadership as compared to, for instance, Honorable Osechi. They've been on the front bench, but not, I mean, leadership as is the case of Honorable Osechi Mensah-Bonsu. But they bring a combination of skills and talents that I believe Ghanaians will be looking very much forward to in terms of ensuring that one of the most important roles of any legislature is to keep an eye on the national purse, to ensure that citizens have value for every bit of their resources. And I see in the appointment of Honorable Abeji, having been chairman of the Finance Committee for many years with his background as an accountant and so on, I see and I hope that we'll get the kind of scrutiny that we'll need in terms of loan agreements, in terms of the budget, in terms of ensuring that the minority performs the function of keeping the majority on its toes in a constructive manner, in a manner that is that shows loyalty to the Ghanaian cause and not loyalty to the NDC cause, in a manner that would not be that they are just opposing because they want to snatch votes from the majority come the next election, but that they are providing the much needed constructive criticism that would advance the Ghana project.
Okay. Mr. Joseph, so let's talk about Adjasa for a while. I mean, what is it about her? Because it looks like, was she a surprise to you?
Yes, to the extent that I never had any discussions which she featured before.
Okay.
Yeah, but not a surprise in terms of her capability. I've worked with her on the Committee on Constitutional and Legal Affairs. I've watched her at the Public Accounts Committee, and it shows clearly that she has what it takes to be a deputy majority leader. Indeed, the issue of gender was also critical. But as he said, MPP is looking forward. What will happen in eighth Parliament? Will Che continue to be the leader? How are you preparing for the future? So it's very clear that MPP is trying to blend the old and the new.
Is that to say that after this Parliament, we probably would have a female minority or majority leader?
It's possible. It's totally possible. But I'm talking more about the age in Parliament, the group of people that are being prepared to take the leadership. How many of us will do 4 terms? As we speak now, for those doing 4 terms, there are about 8 or so. For those doing 3 terms, we are also a few. The House now, our side, the majority side, has 169. 89 of them are fresh entrants. 80 are continuing. And those who are doing 2nd term are in a large majority. A lot of those doing 3rd term now may not come back. Not because they may be voted out, but they themselves may not wish to continue. So we should...
Will that include you?
That is putting me on the spot.
I'm just asking.
No, well, but where I've reached is probable that I'm exiting. But the point I'm making is that we should be looking forward. We are preparing a new generation of leaders for the majority side now, I mean the MPP side.
Honorable Tesachai, what went into the lists, the choices that the NDC settled on?
Thank you very much. But before I answer that question,
Yes, sir.
I have to congratulate my member. In fact, he's been a very good member on my committee.
You can't be ordering him about
No, I have
now.
to. I have to.
After today.
I'm so elated by his appointment. And I hope a lot more of my members will have that nod. Because my committee, in fact, we've done a very good job for this country. And I'm not surprised of his appointment. That notwithstanding, yeah, the NDC, you know, after losing an election and now finding yourself in the minority, there is a big task ahead of you because the good people of this country will be expecting you to be the check on government. And so therefore, in forming your leadership, a lot has to go into the choice of candidates who will be leading the minority. We looked at competence on the job. We're looking at the credibility of the leadership, because it's very important in communication. You need people with credibility, so that, and then people with dedication, so that at the end of the day, they'll be able to do the work in such a way that the good people of this country will be satisfied with governance in this country. And we all know Honorable Haruna Iddrisu, in terms of parliamentary practice, has excelled exceptionally too well. Although as young as he is, he takes parliament as a serious work. And over the years, even those days that he entered into parliament as a young man, we all saw the good work that he did. And so therefore, we all came to the conclusion that in minority, he should lead us so that he will be able to carry the entire country along.
We haven't seen any female there.
Well, in terms of the deputy or in terms of...
Oh, you know, just a female
well,
representative in leadership position.
Yeah.
Just to balance it.
Yeah, yes. You see, it is not about balancing.
It's
for
not?
me, normally when it comes to gender issues, my main issue is not about balancing, okay? But ensuring that the competence, the dedication to duty is the key. So whether the person is a male, whether the person is a female, that should be the guiding principle. And I believe that the choice of Aveji as our deputy minority is a very good choice, because you need somebody with that background.
But I'm told there was pressure to bring somebody also from the Volta region.
To bring somebody from the Volta region.
Yes.
You see, it is not about pressure, but it is about ensuring that at the end of the day, you have that cohesion. Because you know, this is a party that has a mass support throughout the country. And as much as we are looking at the issues of, like you playing the gender issues, we are looking at competence. For me, that is the key word, competence. Because that is what Ghanaians are going to use to assess the minority in their work. And Aveji, over the years, has been the chairman for the Finance Committee. He has a lot of insight into how resources within government are utilized. He has memory on how previous governments have gone about issues of our finances. And so therefore, at this present circumstances, coming to the fore will be a very big advantage to us as a party. And it will benefit the entire nation. So for us, it is a very good choice, a choice that I believe the good people of this country will also accept.
Is there a shocker for you in the names that you've heard from both sides?
Well, first of all, the first shocker, but not surprising, is my member. Yeah. And when I reflect on this appointment, yes, I know the reasons why. When it comes to issues of legislation, it's on top. In fact, on my committee, he does the legal issues for us. So I'm not surprised at all. And anytime he's on the floor to talk on issues of law, the man is a learned man. So he's on top. So for me, he's one. And then Adwoa Safo, yes, she's a very wonderful lady, person, very sociable. I'm also on the Public Accounts Committee with her. And she's one of the members on the committee who doesn't take her work. How do you put it?
I've heard her say that she's taken her time to learn the things in Parliament.
Yes, exactly. Anytime we go on training programs, she takes her work very, very, very serious. And her contribution on the Public Accounts Committee has been very phenomenal. In fact, when it comes to issues of procurement, in fact, I've worked together with her on so many occasions. And she has that knowledge when it comes to issues on procurement.
Okay.
And then on the floor of the House, she's been very exceptional. She has the courage. You know, sometimes being at the backbench is not an easy thing if you want to air your views on the floor. You see people outside Parliament very vocal. But then when they enter the chamber, you see a different thing. Yes, that is Parliament. So to see a young lady, a greenhorn, coming into Parliament and is able to stand the pressures within the chamber, it tells you. And for me, I'll not be surprised that she's going to be a very big achiever in terms of the front bench of the majority. Yes. Very confident.
The discovery of the seventh part.
Very confident.
The discovery of the seventh
Very
Parliament.
confident. And above all, she has a very good communication skills.
Okay.
And I believe that is what we politicians need. Because on daily basis, we interact with people, and one of the key things that some of us as politicians that we lack is the communication skills. That has caused a lot of troubles for some politicians. And I believe Adwoa Safo is coming in with all these skills that I have spoken about. And I believe that she's going to perform exceptionally.
So I want to ask, what is it in the chamber that doesn't allow people to speak? Because during the elections, there was a list that came out about MPs who have never spoken on the floor of Parliament.
You see, one, it's a house of record.
House of record.
Yes.
Okay.
Which means anything that you get up to say, you should have the facts. Although you have the freedom to say whatever you want to say. But when it touches on issues, it should be factual. Because you will be put to the test by members.
Okay.
Exactly. So sometimes, if you are lacking in that area, it becomes very difficult. And you see, parliamentary practice is not something that we come into the house with. We are all learning. Whether you are a professor, whether you are a doctor, whether you are a teacher, you learn whilst Parliament is in session. So if you are the type of parliamentarian who will not attend committee meetings, who will not sit in the chamber to observe what the experienced people do, it will be very difficult. You've had a lot of minuses within the house where people get up and they mess up because they've not taken the time and trouble to learn. It will surprise you that you have members who don't even know what the standing orders entails. He's not even picked the standing order.
That's a shame. Dr. Rahman, is that why there's an institute now? What difference would it make?
Partly. I remember during the inauguration 2 weeks ago, Right Honourable Speaker was talking to some of these issues that sometimes he gets surprised when members get up on the floor of the House, even to move a motion, becomes too much trouble and so on. But, you know, yes, the Institute, I think, would make some difference. We'll come to that. But like Honorable said, you know, when you speak on the floor of the House, every word that you say is captured. And everything that you say has to be based on some kind of evidence. You have a situation where we have members of Parliament, first of all, as they say, you have to learn on the job. And today, given the pressures of life and so on, we see our members of Parliament combining their legislative duties with ministerial duties and with some personal businesses that a number of them run. You have a situation where the internal structures that are supposed to support them are not built to the point where every member gets the maximum support that he or she needs to do his or her work. look at the committee structure. You have maybe 1 or 2 clerks serving a committee of about 25 members, and these clerks also serve other committees. In the ideal situation, members of parliament should have dedicated staff who would look at issues that are coming, do some research, and provide information to them before they go to the floor of the House. Most of this is absent in our situation. And then you combine it with the fact that most of the time when people come into Parliament, the kind of orientation that we give them is such that, you know, we most of the time just scratch the surface. So they go out to Gimpa or some other place for a period of 2 weeks, and then you have about 275 members, very unwieldy, and a lot of chaos all over the place. Then people come out of that not really, haven't had the opportunity to learn before they go to start talking on the floor of the House. In some countries, in Europe, for instance, a professor, a friend of mine, told me that in the case of the Dutch legislature, many years ago, when he used to be part of the group of people who provide orientation, that when you are elected as a member of the Dutch Parliament in those days, I don't know whether that still is the case, before you go and open your mouth on the floor of the House, you are given 6 weeks of orientation, so that, you know, they don't want a situation where you go, you can't represent your people properly. You go, you get intimidated, because if you don't have the facts and then you think that you are going to make a mockery of yourself when you start talking, you rather remain silent. Then you also look at the way Parliament is structured. Most of the time, you have to catch the eye of the Speaker. Those on the front bench are always likely to catch the eye of the Speaker than those in the back bench. In Uganda, they have an assessment that they do, a group does, on members of Parliament. And one of the criterion that they use in terms of assessing MPs is how long you speak or how often you speak on the floor of the House. And that has been criticized widely, because those in the back bench do not get the opportunity to speak as compared to those in the front bench. If you are the chairman of a committee and the committee does some work on behalf of Parliament, you are given the opportunity to speak on behalf of the committee. So you get more opportunities to speak, to contribute, than somebody, maybe Honorable Tetechai, would have been getting more opportunities to speak on behalf of his committee than other members. So all these factors, I think, combine to create a situation where sometimes some of our members are silent on the floor of the House. But for me, one most important factor, I think, is the need for members to try and spend as much time as possible to learn. I mean, today you don't even need to be in the confines of a classroom. I think there's knowledge out there, and you can learn from what other parliamentarians have done around the world, what pertains in other places. I mean, nobody goes to school to become a parliamentarian before he or she enters Parliament. But I think you can school yourself once you are in Parliament. And I believe that the members who become very useful internationally once they leave Parliament are those who, as much as possible, spend the time in building their career as legislators. In terms of the Institute, I don't know whether you want to talk about it now.
Yeah, briefly, yes.
Yeah, but I think I worked very closely with the committee that Right Honourable Speaker set up, headed by the Right Honourable Deputy Speaker, First Deputy Speaker. And over the last many months, we did a lot of work. And the thinking and the rationale behind this is that we wanted to make sure that there is an in-house structure that will provide the support to members of parliament that is aligned with their needs, with their strategic direction that, that parliament has set for itself, as compared to a situation where if my organization is coming to provide support to parliament, I mean, I don't have money, somebody has to fund it, and if somebody is funding it, some of maybe what they want to achieve would find its way into what kind of programs that we design and so on. I mean, not to say, I mean, it's completely, most of the time the programs are not consistent with the needs of parliament, because we discussed those before some of those things are finalized. But for the first time, we are going to have an in-house structure that would make sure that these are our strategic priorities. And these are the kind of programs that we are going to design to make sure that the two speak to each other. And then secondly, and most importantly, over the years, we've had people come in to parliament, spend many, many years. Once they get out of parliament, we don't hear about them again. In most democracies, I mean, these are people who go to become professors because if you spend 8-10 years in parliament, I think you have something that you can offer to society. But we don't have those spaces. And I believe that the Institute is going to create that kind of space, so that that knowledge is not lost. When Honorable ceases to be a member of parliament come tomorrow, we hope his experience in the work of parliament, in the Committee on Transport and so on, in the Public Accounts Committee, will find some expression in the Institute. And I think that's how we can build our democracy, transfer knowledge, and particularly for the young ones and the new ones who are coming. I believe if we had this Institute before, the 80 or 89 new members on the majority side, I think there will be a kind of ready structure for them even to start getting oriented before the official orientation and before they come into the House.
We'll expand on this you know, in a bit, because I also want us to talk about the exit plan, and then we'll use Honorable. Yeah, we'll get that view, but I want your take on this. Is it necessary that you make a comment on the floor of Parliament?
Of course, yes. Indeed, you're elected to represent a group of people to put their views across on any matter. But you see, the reason, one of the major reasons you're ignoring is that if you make a slip, people are merciless. You know, your colleagues in the House, the media outside. So if you're not careful, then you may be intimidated forever. You know, so if I'm sitting here and I see a colleague make a slip and how mercilessly it's been mauled in and out of the House, I may feel intimidated not to comment at all. But I think that it is a process of learning everybody must get used to. You can only learn on the job. I recall Mrs. Adeniran, she's sitting at the Supreme Court when I started practicing in Koforidua. I sat there, my case was not called, and I was getting up to leave. Young man, come, where are you going? I said, oh, I want to go to the, sit here. See that senior, he's a very good advocate, learn from him. So I had to sit there and learn. At the end of the day, you pick some of the nuances of how a lawyer should present his case.
Apo.
That's right. This Apo is not in the book. You learn on the job. But the courage is critical. If you have not done that before, the setting, it's very intimidating. And our own approach to debate, we are technically in a warfare kind of. So if you don't psych yourself up, you'll be intimidated by your opponents. We will heckle you, and you lose your trend of thoughts, and then we will maul you. So I think that people should just be ready. Accept that you can slip, but be prepared to get up again and correct yourself and move on.
Let's talk about the big man. Oh, just, okay.
Before you come in, let me just add something very significant. You see, yes, per the nature of the work within the chamber, it is very difficult for all members to have access to speak on the floor of the House.
Okay.
But you see, Parliament has been structured in a sense that I've always said that, look, if you want to make an impact, you make an impact. You know, the key or the core mandate of we members of parliament is legislation. And that is one of the weakest area that members of parliament are interested in.
Very boring.
Yes. But you see, that is where, yes, free opportunity. You don't even have the cameras. Because most of you, after after 12, after 1,
Yeah.
you are gone. You see? And that is, in fact, our second deputy speaker, that is Honorable Joe Gatti, has been very good in that aspect, ensuring that members who don't normally contribute, he gives them the opportunity, okay? Make mistakes, he corrects you. He's never captured by the press, you see? But that is when you see the chamber empty. That is the period that the chamber is empty. You have only maybe 2 or 3 members of the committee that legislation is being done, and then some of the very good members that normally help in lawmaking in the chamber. So sometimes I find it very difficult when we use that excuse that maybe because you are not the chairman, because you are not. When I entered into parliament, I was not made a chairman of any committee. I was a member of the Education Select Committee, a member. But at the end of my first term, I have raised issues on the floor of the House that even the current government made it into law. The BEC, receipt. You see, so it is not maybe because you've not been made a chairman or a ranking member of a committee.
You still have an opportunity to make an
look,
impact.
You can even have the opportunity when you put in questions. It is an avenue to market yourself, to let your people know that you are also there. So there are some making statements. Making statements. It is another way. You just make the statement, nobody heckles you. With statements, nobody heckles you. So there are so many avenues.
Sure. Dr. Dramani, you want to say something?
Yeah, I mean, I want to agree with Honorable to some extent, but to say that regrettably, today, I think in the day of technology, social media, I mean, 24-hour news kind of cycle and so on, the way, I mean, citizens judge their MPs is more of what you do when they are watching the proceedings of Parliament. Regrettably, I mean, the committees have been described as engine rooms of Parliament. That's where a lot of work is done. But we don't see that. So what I see in my member of Parliament, when I want to assess whether he's performing or not, one of the kind of yardsticks that I would use is maybe when I'm watching Joy and you are covering the proceedings of Parliament and others are contributing and he or she is not contributing. Regrettably, I mean, the Interparliamentary Union, of which our Parliament is a part, did a study which somewhat disagrees with I mean, the position of Honourable Member here about what is the most important role of a Member of Parliament. Around the world, they ask MPs and they ask citizens. And citizens said, your role is to represent us. Your role is to ensure that we feel you, we have an impact, we are impacted by you at the constituency level, the local economy and so on and so forth, not lawmaking. Members of Parliament said 52% of their role is lawmaking, and citizens said no, 52% of your role is, I mean, what you do in terms of representation. So, I mean, these are some of the things, and perception drives reality, unfortunately. So members would have to try and balance.
How do we change that?
Well, I think, I mean, for me, anytime we do training for members of Parliament and I raise this issue, one of the things that I tell members of Parliament from around the continent is that you can change that reality if you follow the money. And by following the money, this is what I mean. You go to the constituency, and I think they will all have different stories to tell if you ask them right now, in terms of the way, I mean, they are heckled in the constituency. When they show up, I mean, their houses are turned into all kinds of, arenas and so on. If members of parliament diligently ensure that the budget that they vote, the policies that they pass and so on, those are implemented to the letter. If we have a budget for healthcare, if we ensure that all the leakages are blocked, and I can get healthcare in my village as equally as maybe somebody who is not privileged, then when the member of parliament shows up in the constituency, I think people would begin to say, yes, now there is a difference in what you are doing in that house, which is made up of only 275 members. So I think that perception can be changed to a very large extent if members take their oversight work, I mean, seriously and diligently. And then also if laws are passed, but laws that are implementable, laws that are practical, laws that we pass and don't forget them in the statute books and that don't even remember that they exist. I went to one parliament once and the speaker said, we are going to pass this law and so on and so forth. And an old professor, after the speaker left, he told the members, go and tell your speaker in 1970 we passed this law. So it's there. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. I mean, it means that that parliament is not alive to its duties and responsibilities.
And as just when you started talking, Mr. Joseph also wanted to say something in connection with that?
Yes.
Okay.
That conflict between the expectations of your constituents and your constitutional responsibility. It's a very fine and a delicate balance. I have been advocating that there are one of two things we must do. Either you make the MP, in addition to being a lawmaker, also the development agent, or you make the people elect the development agent on the ground, that is the MMCs. That is the only way the people would take note of his or her responsibility, because they don't go to them to ask for their votes. They don't feel that they owe them any duty of care, because we go around and ask for their votes.
And sometimes you make promises as well.
Of course, yes. We promise that when our party is in government, we will do the things they expect us to do. And I think a major misunderstanding of what is the MP's share of what the common fund is also a major challenge. If you don't interact with your people frequently, other people misinform them. And so, well, over the years, what I do, at least once a year, I go around all the communities that constitute my constituency, 116 of them.
The Kwai.
Yes, and I let them know that this is all I have, and this is how I'm sharing it. You have asked for this, you will not get this time, because that community is getting a little part of that money. The next one that comes, you're getting your share. But they don't, I'm surprised that they don't ask of the same thing. They don't ask with confidence from the MC. They think that the MC is doing them a favor, while they think that you owe them a duty.
Because they voted for you.
And that's why the reason they're voting for you is often lost on them, that they are voting you to become, and they even complain that you've gone to live in Accra. Meanwhile, the work they voted
You're living big.
That is the worst part, because of the big vehicles. You know, they think you're living big, when in fact you're poorer. But I think we must work at resolving that conflict. I thought it was a Ghanaian problem. I'm happy to know that it's global, in the sense that there's a major failure of local governance. Local governance in our system is failing. And for that reason, the only person they know is the one they voted for. Now, if we are going to reverse the trend, we should vote for people who are in charge of local governance, or you should make the people they vote for the development agents, so they can hold them accountable.
Okay.
Well, I mean, we hope the incoming president has said 2018. We've heard these promises before in the past from other presidents, But we hope that this time around, this promise will be kept, that the kind of leaders of the local assemblies, the chief executives and so on, from 2018 onwards, they will be elected. I think that, to a very large extent, would help the cause of the Member of Parliament.
Let's talk about Professor Michael Quaye. He's coming back to the chamber, but he's coming to run it. Dr. Draman, what does he bring to the table?
He brings a lot of experience. He's been a Member of Parliament before. He's been a High Commissioner before. He's been a professor before. So I think he's a very well-rounded and a Reverend Minister that I didn't know. He's a very well-rounded person. But for me, I think the choice of somebody like him, particularly in the times in which we live, because these are not normal times. I mean, what we saw on December 7, I think is a complete departure from the way politics has been done in this country. A few weeks ago, when there were, the discussions about, who becomes Speaker and who are the front runners and so on, my center, we gave an interview and said that we developed some criteria. I think about 7 of them. It was actually on your network. Said that, irrespective of the personalities, whoever is going to take the mantle of leadership, I think these are, the kind of qualities or the factors that should inform the leadership of the MPP in selecting that person. And two of the factors maybe I would mention here. Number one is deepening the kind of reforms that have been started under this current leadership. We mentioned the Parliamentary Training Institute. It was inaugurated on the 23rd of December, I believe. The Scrutiny Office, we did a lot of work with the current Speaker in terms of setting it up so that we have, when we did an assessment some time ago in terms of performance of parliaments on the continent, we compared 7 parliaments. Our parliament did not fare quite well when it came to oversight, financial, kind of keeping an eye on the money and so on. Uganda, Kenya did much better. And they did much better because they had the Parliamentary Budget Office. And here we have tried to create what is called the Office of Parliamentary Scrutiny. So we said that one of the factors that should guide the party in selecting the next speaker is that we want to see somebody who would come and deepen these reforms that have been started, so that at least we build a very solid institution in our legislature. Then the second one is that we said that the person who is going to occupy that seat should be somebody who has an eye on legacy.
Okay.
Fiercely independent, be able to stand up to both his party and the rank and file and so on, and make sure that, the focus is on legacy. And I think I see in Professor Michael Quaye, first of all, given that he has done it all, it's not like me. If you put me there, perhaps I'll be looking at so many other things as compared to somebody like him. So for me, it's the very encouraging thing about him is that hopefully we are going to have someone who would
who want to be remembered for something.
For something. Who want to be remembered for something. Our current speaker will be remembered for a lot of things. The Job 600, which started, and I think it had a lot of fits and challenges over the years, but he has been able to complete it. Whatever the cases, whatever contributions others have made, I think his name is etched in the annals of our parliamentary history. We have one of the best kind of edifices that I have seen in any parliament on the continent. And then some of the other reforms that have been started. You want someone who will come and continue that. I'm happy I'm sitting next to the First Deputy Speaker. Hopefully, maybe he'll convey this message to to the good professor that at least we want to make sure that unlike many other speakers and leaders who left and they were remembered for bad things, we want speakers to live and be remembered for the good things that they did to contribute to the development of our legislature. One big thing, the right to information law, we are all disappointed that I think this parliament has not been able to pass that. We hope that given the numbers that the majority would have, given the kind of politics that Ghanaians want to see come January 7, we hope that that will be one of the first things that our speaker will put his mind to, so that, you know, when the story is written, countries like Nigeria and so on have these laws. And we are still sitting and talking, and we are very good at it anyway. I mean, we are very good at, looking at other people and talk and talk and talk for years. And the output sometimes is not that encouraging.
I want us to talk about the exit plan because I want us to absorb a lot of things. And it's very important to me. The Honorable Dua Jaho is also leaving. For instance, I'm thinking, what would he be doing? What could he do? But Honorable Tete Chai, what's your plan?
Thank you very much. As a young man entering Parliament, I had a focus. And in fact, my focus was to do 2 terms.
To do 2 terms?
Yes.
Okay.
And immediately, I had the opportunity to serve my people the 2nd term. I started my exit arrangements. So for me, I don't have any stress on me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you going back to the classroom?
I want to become a lecturer in future. And so therefore, I have to continue with my studies.
Okay.
But I started before I came into Parliament. I was also doing some businesses. So it is time for me to elevate the businesses that I've been doing over the years.
Professorship in Congress.
Yeah.
Oh, no. That will even give you the experience. You see, when you are in the lecture hall, lecturing, and sometimes you don't have the practical experience, it affects the students. That is why when you attend professional institutions, you come out as a better professional. For me, that is the experience that I have.
Okay.
Yes. So that's food for thought.
The non-professionals do better business. So we observe them and we write theories. We theorize based on their actions. We try to rationalize them. When you combine trying to be an academic with a business person, one suffers most of the time. My own constituency chairman, he runs a business called Century Investments, one of the first people who started packaging water. Before I realized, he had become the study center for the Polytechnic of Kumasi, the marketing students, because they couldn't see how he had a sudden rise.
Okay.
And I mean, suddenly he became the most visible. And so he often granted interviews to the students, how he's planning his things. He became a study subject for many of those doing postgraduate programs in the universities. And I work very closely with him. I understand his challenge. He observed the situation and craft a solution.
Okay.
And has become very successful in that matter. You, when you're trained in the books, you try to use the books. You're not a practical person. But what I like about you is planning your exit even at the point of entry. That's what I believe in. If you don't plan your exit at the point of entry, you may be forced to exit at a time you're not ready. And that's what has happened to many of our colleagues. I believe strongly that at the time you're entering, you have planned where you're going.
Is that what you've done?
A long time ago.
Okay. And you plan to do 3 terms?
To be frank with you, this third term was not part of the plan.
Oh, wow.
Something happened that made me continue to a third term.
It's good you stayed.
I'm sure.
But I've been told that some of the members who didn't expect to exit at this point are really angry with themselves. Dr. Draman, what happens? Is that not part of the orientation when they come in?
Yes, I think that for me, part of the exit is that the very first day you enter Parliament, I think you should start preparing your exit, because you don't determine. And that's why people get shocked and get surprised. I mean, when you talk to a politician going into an election, I mean, everybody is confident that they are going to win. But at the end of the day, one person wins. So I believe that part of the exit strategy would be the very first day you enter Parliament. I think you should be working in a manner and thinking in a way that would suggest that you are not going to come back. If you come back, that's a plus, that's a bonus. And then what you do once you exit Parliament, I think depends on what you do when you are in Parliament, to a very large extent. Even if you want to be a successful businessman, I think if you take the work of Parliament seriously and you understand, I mean, because it's like a classroom, if you like. You understand the issues very well and so on. It helps you. Because today we say people who have some level of education, some kind of knowledge, they do business better. They're able to run their business in a professional way than people like my mother who doesn't have any education and will not understand some of there are exceptions though. So the point I'm trying to make is that what you do after you leave Parliament depends to a very large extent on what you do when you are in Parliament.
Okay.
And then also, I think as Parliament and as our democracy grows, I think we should try to be expanding the frontiers and creating spaces where, I mean, people who come out of Parliament, even if the person has done one term, I believe that he has a lot of knowledge and something that he can give back to society. Even if he's doing business, I believe if Honorable is running his business and he will still have time to do some work in the institute, I believe there is some knowledge that he can impart on I mean, the new MPs who are coming, as well as maybe contributing to the democratic discourse of our country.
Using his plan as a case study, though, is that a good plan? Is that a master plan?
Maybe he has to answer that question, whether that's a good plan or not. But I think sometimes there is no good or bad plan. I mean, a plan is a plan, and it's a good plan until it fails, and it's a bad plan until it succeeds.
But what's the practice? Can you do business alongside being in Parliament?
Yes, I think it's allowed. I think the standing orders allow that, but you have to declare. I mean, then the business, if you are running a law firm, that's a business. If you are buying and selling, that's a business. I think under the standing orders, you have to declare
an
office for
members holding office of profit. Yeah. So you apply to be granted permission to do other business.
Okay.
And you must show that that will not interfere with your parliamentary
there are no
duties.
conflicts.
And so there's a committee headed by, I think, the second deputy speaker, at which you bring your application, and then they will examine what you want to do, and determine that indeed that will not conflict with your work as a member of parliament.
So are you practicing?
Oh, I abandoned practice.
Galamsey.
I even abandoned Galamsey. I actually hide out my chambers.
Oh, okay.
Colleagues of mine are sitting in my chambers now. But that's why I planned to leave at the end of 2 terms. So I set myself up. But something happened, so I had to change my plan. And that's why I gave my chambers out. But I wanted to comment on the issue of planning that at the end of every term you exit. There are certain places you can be sure, as long as you are in a particular party's ticket, you'll win. But whether you will be on the party's ticket depends heavily on the amount of goodwill you generate locally. That is very expensive. So if you plan to exit right of entry, you actually exit. Because then you will not spend the money that will maintain your goodwill. If you plan to do 3 terms, you must plan that you will not save anything for first term, second term. You spend all the money you have.
That's a huge risk.
I'm telling you, you spend all the money you have on them, and then at the end of it, now I'm not going back, so I hold back and prepare for my exit.
So I've got a question.
Yes.
How do you make money when you're in Parliament when you don't have any business on the side?
No, here, within here, there are a number of opportunities, must be frank. There are a lot of things that come to you that you have no choice but to share. Well, he mentioned Galamsey. When MPs mention Galamsey, it means that you're getting involved in matters which you're not ordinarily part of, in order to accumulate something. When you accumulate Galamsey money, you go and share.
Is it people lobbying you to take a certain decision, agree to a policy or disagree to a policy that will come on the floor? Is that what Galamsey
much
is?
here. Lobbying to that extent is not very particular
Yeah?
here. Yes, but he works with yes. And
You see, I think that's the point. We need to change the nature of our politics. I mean, recently the Westminster Foundation did a study on the cost of politics. And in some countries, I mean, when you hear the figures, they are mind-boggling. About 15 years ago, Honorable Abang Bagbin, our leader here, and myself, we went to a conference in England. And then we had a Nigerian MP who was running, and he got into a conversation with Honorable Bagbin. He said, so in Ghana, how much does it cost? Honorable Bagbin at the time, about 10, 15 years ago, it's not as expensive as it is today. He mentioned some figure in the tens of thousands, and this MP said in Nigeria you have to have millions of dollars before you can win a parliamentary seat. And I think that is slowly creeping into our politics here. And the earlier we stopped it, the better. How can we stop it? I think one of the things that we need to do, and the message to our parliamentarians, is that let's follow the money, let's provide effective oversight so that at least the cake can be shared equitably. There will be equity in society. And that pressure that you have on you, if you are going to run for primaries in your party, people are clamoring because people don't have health care. That's the time that somebody will make money to go and take care of the health of his family. People don't have a proper education and so on. But when the policies are there and then we make sure that the little resources, there's no country that has an infinite amount of resources. But the little that we have, how do we ensure that everybody gets what he or she deserves? And that, I think, will begin to reduce the pressure on the members.
Okay.
So when the minority is pushing for oversight in the 7th Parliament, I think the majority should see it inuring to their own benefit in the long run. Because when we have equity, I think the pressure will reduce significantly.
Okay.
And good people would like to take the risk and come and contribute. Because people are afraid now, and most people don't get into politics because they think they don't have the money, and it shouldn't be money.
We have 5 minutes, and I want us to use that time to talk about what's been significant in this parliament that ends midnight. Mr. Tesechai.
Well, for me, the most significant thing, I would say, is my committee work. Because at the end of the day, that is what I'm taking outside Parliament.
Okay.
Yeah.
You take the committee home, as in you take that work with you?
Look, I'm very satisfied in the work we've done over the period. And for me, that is what I'm taking out of this house. Because that is what I can use as an individual, okay, as a yardstick for my work over the years.
Okay.
The issues of infrastructure has been a bane to the development of this country. And for me, I've always said that, look, per our population structure, we have to match development with our population growth. That is the only way we can reduce poverty. So any legislation, anything that will enhance expanding the economy of this country, I'm all for it.
Okay.
And myself, my colleagues, we've worked very, very hard to ensure that the expansion of infrastructure in this country is enhanced. And no wonder, over the last 4 years, we've had phenomenal expansion of infrastructure in this country.
What would you miss about you?
My disappointment will be the Right to Information Bill.
Okay.
Seriously speaking.
You failed us.
Yes, we've all failed.
No, don't say we for your majority. You could have done this.
No.
You could have even done this 2 months ago, 3 months ago, 6 months ago.
No.
Why not?
You see, this bill has been a bill that has involved a lot of stakeholder consultation, because everybody wants to ensure that we get it right. So that it will not be a law that will be on our books, and then at the end of the day, it becomes very difficult to implement. My colleague, he's been very, very hardworking on that bill. Anytime it comes to the legislative work, he's there.
But bottom line, you failed us.
No, you see,
you failed
what
us.
we have
So
done now, you see, what we have done now, rather fine-tune the bill. Because look, the first time it came into Parliament, it was,
So
the loopholes were too many, okay? It was fine-tuned, and currently it has also gone through some fine-tuning. So the next government will have it very easy.
okay, all right.
Very, very easy. And for me, that is the happiness that we will derive from this.
Okay, so
Right
what
to
would you
Information
miss about yourself being in this Parliament?
Bill. Well, missing, for me, I don't know.
Really?
Because I've planned my exit
Okay.
over 4 years
Friends? You didn't make
now.
any
Yes.
tight friends?
For friends, we will still be friends.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
What do you miss committee work?
Mr. Sewusu.
Well, for me, the two significant things for the Parliament that is closing today. One, the attempt to amend the Constitution, the debate, the public hearing, and the vote that finally came out of it. The attempt to cause Parliament to investigate the allegations of bribery against the President, and the debate and the Ferrari, and the ruling of the Speaker. Those things are in the records. For me as a lawyer, they are challenging, and in the role I'm going to play now, there will be things that will have to keep reminding me of where I belong and what's significant, so those decisions, how it will impact generally on my party and the rest of the country.
Okay, you are still staying in Parliament,
Yes.
but you're moving to a new area.
Yeah.
What would you miss about your old self?
I'll miss being me. Now I have to be a little different.
Yeah.
I'll miss the early morning drive to join you to be part of discussions like this. I'll miss the calls to do explanations on policies and decisions in Parliament. Indeed, my job all my life has been a communicator.
Yeah.
As a lawyer, you present your case. What I find most of the time, as my friend said, people communicate very clumsily. And so even good policies generate heat because we don't communicate it in a way that is to attract sympathy or acceptance. And so that's what I'll miss, because I'll no longer be in a position to be doing those things.
Can we still call you though?
If it relates to Parliament, there will be the snowballage, unless it is about me.
All right.
If you hear that I'm misconducting myself, then you call me to find out before.
All right. Dr. Draman, to end with you, what's been most significant about this Parliament?
I think in addition to what Honorable said, in terms of the attempt to investigate the President We are currently doing research, and we sent some questionnaires around a couple of months ago, and one of the questions is, has Parliament ever sanctioned or censured a minister? Has the president ever been censured? I think the answer is no.
Yes.
This Parliament made an attempt. It didn't work. The constitutional issue, I think, is a very big one. But I think overall, the kind of excessive partisanship, for me, I think is one thing that we want to see toned down as a lesson that we will take from this Parliament to the next Parliament, because that doesn't do good to either the majority or the minority.
Okay.
The Right to Information Bill, I think Parliament failed us. Look, when Parliament wants to pass anything, it can pass it. So all these are excuses. And they know what I'm talking about.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Rashid Rahman. Thank you, Mr. Tetechai. Thank you, Mr. Joe Sewusu. My name is Mama Viewusu Abuaje. Roland Walker in studio started this whole conversation for us, but we have to wrap up. And on behalf of the entire crew who are here, we want to say thank you for watching. Stay with us here on the Joy News channel.
Good morning.